Hello and welcome to the newest and grandest podcast in the world. It's the Grand Designs Podcast. I'm Greg James. This is Kevin McCloud.
Hello. Put like that, Greg, it sounds really momentous.
It is momentous.
Yeah.
We're going to dive into each episode of this new series. And I actually can't believe it's taken you 25 years to get round to doing a behind-the-scenes show. Finally, we're giving the people, and I include myself in that, what they want.
Yeah.
Because we want to know the goings-on of this show, which I think is one of the greatest TV shows ever made.
Well, thank you. I am so excited and delighted that we're doing this together because we've talked about it for so long. It's just lovely to be able to dig deep into the projects.
So I wrote an article about my love for grand designs.
Yes.
Particularly in the pandemic, I revisited and me and my wife started the whole thing again as a comfort. And you saw the article. And then we were in the middle of lockdown. It was a Friday night. I remember it vividly. I said to my wife, I'm just off to have a Zoom with Kevin McCloud.
She was cooking.
She was cooking. We basically had a bottle of wine
Yeah,
each.
we did. And we sat and chatted.
And here we are. This is it.
Didn't we follow through?
Yeah.
But we're going to focus, aren't we, week by week on the episode we've just seen on television.
Yeah, and also the big themes of the show.
Yeah.
The stuff that people love the show for, the going over budget, the why are you doing this in the first place, the mad idea that someone wrote on the back of a matchbox. Great episode, by the way.
The babies. The babies that people decided to have in the middle of a project, for goodness sakes.
The conspiracy theories around that as well.
Yeah, let's not go there.
Well,
That's for another episode.
We heard the music before this episode started. What does that music do to you?
It's an amazing theme tune. It's in this lovely 3/4 time, you know, with a little bit of kind of imagination and a mystery about it. It always sounds like there's a quality of like, elves, run for the hills. It's got that kind of wonderful, magical, fairy tale-like quality to it, which is pretty. People have got married to it.
I would. If I have another marriage, I'd do that.
It would need 100% consent, obviously, from both of you.
We'd need an officiator.
Don't look at me.
Oh, come on. Grand Designs is famous for having divorces.
So Daisy Goodwin, who came up with the idea, she said it is a great programme, but it doesn't have a format. The only thing you know is at the end, it's either there's a finished house or there's a divorce. It's one or the other.
Well, we're also going to focus on the episode we've just seen, and that features wonderful Sarah in the Durham Dales. We'll chat to Sarah a bit later. A really lovely character. I love this episode. It's a really lovely start to the series, and it looked cold.
Yeah, she's 1,100 feet above sea level on an exposed moor. She grew up in the area, and she'd been working and living all her life in the south of England, working in the artistic community because she's an artist. And her kids grew up, and she went through a divorce, and she thought, actually, what do I do next in my life? And it was to move home, to go back to near where her mother lives. And she's chosen this kind of really windswept location in the most remotest of all villages, really. But I admire her for that because as an artist, of course, it's always the artists that we turn to for regeneration. They're always the first people to move in somewhere and to build unusually, and this is what she's done.
We'll dig into the big talking points of the episode shortly. But before we do you watch the show back when it goes out on telly?
Yes.
Because I think a lot of Grand Designs viewers will settle in and have snacks and drinks and have the whole evening planned.
Yeah.
And I wanted to bring a bit of that to this podcast by having a drink pairing for each episode. And so what I've done is I've gone to a local brewery in Durham, and in here is a ruby ale from a local brewery.
Nice.
Because of the ruby red roof. So cheers.
Clever you.
Try a bit of that.
Yeah. This is...
It's quite nice, isn't it?
I like a ruby ale.
Cheers. It's also a 100-year-old recipe, this, as a nod to the original farmhouse that was on that land.
Yeah, indeed, and that's worth mentioning because by the time we got there, this is good.
Isn't it?
It's really good. When we got there, that original house had been already dismantled. Beautifully, of course, she was able to use all the stone from that in the new building, which was a nice reuse on site.
I also wanted to just make a nod to the weather, and I got a little fan, but it's solar powered.
Are you hoping to mimic the effect of 80-mile-an-hour winds at 1,100 feet?
I think you wore your biggest ever gloves in this episode. They're ridiculous. They were like 4 times the size of your
They were
hand.
massive. They were North Pole gloves.
Also, I really enjoyed that you and her had the same flat cap on.
We bonded over our flat cap choices, yeah, it's true.
Should we dive in on the budget thing? Because as a viewer of Grand Designs, I always get halfway through, and I'm sure there are millions of other people that always go, do they not watch Grand Designs? They know the pitfalls. They know what's coming. Do they genuinely think it's not going to happen to them?
They genuinely do think it's not going to happen to them. They do watch Grand Designs. It's just that they've never built before.
Yeah.
And so there's a sort of an understanding in their mind that this will be the one project in the history of building which has come in on budget. This is the mentality which underwrote how much HS2 was going to cost. So on the counts of my three favourite variables, budget, time, quality, it failed on all three. And I look at the projects we film and think, well, okay, they overspent, but it's a beautiful thing. However, one thing I will say is when I ask people, how much are you intending to spend? What they're really quoting me is the figure of the money that they've got, not what it's going to cost. And I've done this. I employed a quantity surveyor to give me a price. And I looked at the price he quoted me, and I thought, I can't spend that kind of money. It's ridiculous. It won't be worth that when it's done. So I ignored it. And then I built, and then that's how much it did cost in the end. And there's a good argument for using quantity surveyors, and it's a very simple one. That is that if they weren't right, they wouldn't exist. And I reckon about 10%, maybe 5% of our contributors, they do use quantity surveyors, and about 5 to 10% of projects come in on budget. And I suspect they're the same projects.
So this one, Sarah wanted to spend 330, ended up spending 520 so far. So that's 190k over. That's 60% over. Even in the history of the show, that's quite an overspend.
That's quite an overspend. But then she's got 180 square metres of usable space that she can live in and work in. My favourite figure is always to quote the cost per square metre.
Right.
Because, you know, we have this amazing metric in the UK, which is that we measure the value of a building by the number of bedrooms it has. It doesn't matter how big the bedrooms are or whether there are any bathrooms. There might not be a kitchen in the house. As long as it's got 3 bedrooms, it's going to be worth that. Or you could convert that broom cupboard into an extra bedroom, add another 25,000 to your house value. It's an absurd way of measuring quality of life and even of measuring the contribution of architecture, right? Mm-hmm. So what they do in the rest of the world is either use a cost per square foot or a value per square metre. And it's a really useful metric, I find. And looking at that, she ended up spending about £3,000 a square metre, which is, these days, quite cheap. I mean, before COVID, it was sort of bang on for quite high-level self-build, but now everything's gone up.
So everything's gone up since COVID?
Yeah.
Why else has everything got more expensive? Why do people keep doing this?
Labour's got a bit more expensive, partly because there are fewer people who are any good, and the whole market has not had any input of training for about 40, 45 years. So the big bulge of talented, trained people that came through, we got to COVID, and most of them said, I quite like this early retirement thing. I don't think I'm going to go back. And so we lost a lot of skilled older people in their 50s and 60s. Right. And as a result, you know, good people, good plumbers, good electricians can sort of charge more because they're rare.
This is the problem, is because everyone watches Grand Designs and they go, I could do that. Then you get a load more people who then do 60% over the budget, and this is the whole thing.
That is true, although I wouldn't say that a precondition of building or as of filming a building is that it has to go over budget. I love it when things come in on budget. I love it when the quality isn't compromised, because that's the thing we're really trying to champion is beautifully made things. And the money is always kind of entertaining. And it's a terrible thing, actually, when it goes really heavily over budget, because then that's all the story becomes about. And the lovely thing, I think, about the stories we tell is that they're multifaceted. There are lots of threads running at the same time.
But you also have to be fully invested in these stories, and it must be quite difficult when you have to discuss the sad news or the difficult decisions and you're presiding over it. That's hard, isn't it, for you to do that?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's a team of us working on it. You know, everybody gets really invested in the projects. You can't help that.
Throughout the episode, you are worried as the viewer that she's going to have to sell the holiday cottage, and then money becomes a huge issue. And then there's that very moving scene in the caravan where not enough hemp has been ordered. It all gets too much. And you understand that as a viewer. You think, I'd be crying at this point as well. Yeah. How do you deal with moments like that?
You know, that moment came about as an inevitability of not having enough cash in the first place and just praying and hoping that it would become good. And of course, things go wrong. That's life. These are people who don't have to be on television. We're not paying them to become television stars. This isn't some form of weird reality program. This is just life. And therefore, we want to tell a story which they will recognize as being their story. It's that simple, being honest. And there is a delicacy, therefore, and a subtlety that's required not to milk those moments, because they're profound in their own right. They're not scripted and they're not set up. They are just caught. And it's an important part of the job, actually, is bringing humanity to the role rather than saying, and we're going to move on to the weather. You know.
Have you ever got to a point ever where you've thought, Channel 4, hi, can you send them some money because they're really struggling here?
Once or twice I have literally left site in the evening to go and get a train thinking, they only need 10 grand. I wonder if I could... And of course you wake up the next morning and think, if I'd thought that about every project that had gone over, well, I wouldn't be here. I'd be 6 feet under, because you become emotionally involved and you want to help. And the best help I think I can possibly offer is, here's a phone number of somebody you can ring, or speak to those people who were in Series 14 who did a similar thing. And that's the odd thing, is that when I say that, they say, oh, yeah, well, we've done that. We're on the same Facebook group.
They gave us the idea.
And it is slightly odd when you discover that contributors have been speaking to each other.
Well, that's good that you didn't give 10 grand. Because they'd have gone,
oh, yeah.
If you cry in front of Kev, he'll get his checkbook out.
Just for the record, it won't ever be happening. Right.
Should we talk about Hempcrete?
We can.
For those that haven't seen this episode, hemp plays a big role. Sarah uses hemp as one of the main materials.
And it's important to say that the construction material is a form of cannabis sativa. That is, it's the same plant, identical to look at, but without the psychoactive ingredient.
So you can't get high off a house?
You can't get high off a house other than from the majesty of the architecture.
Great. It's now a big part of my life, hemp.
Yeah.
Hemp clothes, hemp shoes.
So my underwear is hemp. And
I wonder why you're scratching so much.
No, it's super smooth. And I alternate between hemp and bamboo. And the interesting thing about that, I was thinking about this, is that bamboo is the fastest growing crop on the planet, right? Super sustainable, needs no inputs. Hemp is the second fastest growing crop on the planet, needs no inputs.
So we really, in all seriousness, your underpants aside, we should be using hemp way more in our lives.
Oh, yeah.
Why are we not fast-forwarding this?
Don't know.
This feels sustainable. We could save so many forests.
Maybe
this could be great.
A little bit more expensive.
Yeah.
Maybe it's because, not in France, but in the UK, we have a natural resistance to new products, new ideas. The idea that you could use something that's really sustainable and so simple. Surely there's something wrong with it. That's sort of, there's a slightly antediluvian preference for brick in this country.
I also don't like the word hempcrete. I know concrete, I get where it's come from. Hempcrete.
Because concrete is also an adjective. You have discrete and concrete. It means, something is solid. But I don't really know what else to call it, because it looks a bit like concrete, but it isn't. Much lighter.
Call it hempcrete then.
Call it hempcrete. I'm sorry, Greg.
No. I was watching it going, that's just what we're calling it now, is it? I hadn't heard of hempcrete before this episode, but after watching it, that's all I think about.
Hemp is a fantastically versatile plant. It grows straight and true like a big stalk. It's got fibres in it which have been used for centuries for rope making and sail making. Mm-hmm. The world used to be made out of this stuff until plastics came along. And the stalks, which are often the waste product, somebody said, we could build with this. So the factory we visit is a state-of-the-art, modern, futuristic factory which takes the stalk of the hemp plant and chops it up and then gets rid of all the dust. So it's very pure stalk fibres, and they are mixed with a lime binder.
Wow.
And it's kind of a cool thing because it's made out of very, very time-honoured materials.
And incredibly sustainable, like timber, so you can grow it again. And
it takes 3 months to grow to about 8 foot tall. It sequesters a huge amount of carbon, of course, on the way through from the atmosphere. And then you lock it away in the building. And you end up with a lightweight wall, which is structural and thick and insulating, and you can simply plaster it on the inside and render it on the outside, and you need to put nothing else into your wall, really. And that sort of was Sarah's approach.
Hemp is being grown in the UK.
Yeah.
Why did you go to Champagne? Or is the answer obvious? Because I assumed, because you said, and we're in Champagne to look at hemp. I thought it was like champagne in that you can only call it hemp if it's from the French town Imp.
It's got its own DOC on the bottle.
Yeah. It's nothing to do with the champagne thing. You can't call it champagne unless it's from Champagne. You can call hemp from hemp wherever it's from.
Yeah, indeed.
So why did you go to Champagne?
We went to Champagne because it's been grown there for centuries, continuously, and there used to be a big paper mill. We didn't get that far. We had a quick lunch.
Okay, well, we believe you.
The reason why the hemp had to come from Champagne was because in this factory there's amazing dust extraction machines. The machines on giant springs that just wobble around to shake the dust out, and that makes for a much better hemp product.
A much better drink, hemp.
What I find interesting is you go to France, it's like loads of people build there and they're growing it everywhere and there are these amazing factories, right? In the UK, there's almost nothing. There's a historical reason for that, and that is we had a Dangerous Drugs Act, which basically said no to growing anything like that, thank you. And even though it's not psychoactive, you'd have to smoke an entire field and you'd still have no effect, right? It seems absurd that you would ban...
Have you checked that?
I've tried. I haven't.
Believe me, you'd have to smoke an entire field to get any effect.
To get no effect?
Kevin, I'm really enjoying this chat, but we are bound by adverts. In Grand Designs, it's a huge format point, isn't it? The Jeopardy up to the ads. So give us some Jeopardy so that people come back and watch the next bit of this. What's the sort of thing I would say?
I don't know, something like, it was all going so well.
It was all going so well.
And then... My favourite one was on Ben Law in about 2003. He built this beautiful house in the woods. Nothing went wrong with the project. And at one point I found myself saying, the project's going well. Ben's got the frame up. But it's September and winter is coming.
Maybe I'll say that every time. The podcast is going well, but it's October and winter is coming.
I like your delivery.
And so are the adverts. They're coming now.
Yeah.
Kevin, one of the things I'm very, very excited about getting to do the show with you is that I want to speak to the star of the latest episode.
Sarah?
Yes.
Yeah, we should call her up. And also, can I just say, I think it's stars because it's Sarah and her house, because it's the new entity.
Well, Sarah and her house are about to pop up on the laptop in front of us.
Hey, Sarah. Hi.
Hello, Greg, and hi, Kevin.
What a great episode, first of all. I absolutely loved it. I'm so pleased that your episode was the first of the series. That's a great honour. Do you realise the badge of honour that is?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that was an honourable position, and I'm really pleased that this episode has gone out first.
For my first proper question, Sarah, with this unique access to you, is Kevin a good house guest?
Oh, Kevin's a great house guest. He's an incredibly engaged person who is fascinated and very knowledgeable about build process and architecture.
I'm just texting Sarah what to say. You say house guest. It's been a building site for so long, and then all of a sudden there is that transformative moment where you take your shoes off at the front door, you wipe your feet, or you knock, where you don't just walk in because it becomes somebody's home. And I think the relationship between building and art and people is a really interesting one because, of course, the building happens because of a creative process. The building comes from people, but very specifically, this building is for creativity. It's for other people. It's a springboard idea. You've got to pour the energy into it, and then it throws something back. I was wondering, Sarah, has that already started to happen? Because you've been teaching, haven't you, in the space?
Yes, I've kicked off the classes. Fortunately, I've got a very engaged group of people in the village who have really bought into expressive drawing, really. So that's fantastic. And I'm working towards, at the moment, having a public exhibition of the build drawings and inviting all of the trades who worked on the house to that evening, because that's the first time a lot of them have seen the finished build. They did their bit, including the architects. So I think it'd be great to see all of those reactions from the people when they come here to the space, yeah.
Has the new landscape and environment affected your art in any way?
The field next door has got some fantastic young bullocks in. Actually, the farmer texted me and said he's got some real little characters that he's putting in there. Those young bullocks, they're brilliant to draw. As soon as they see me out there with the drawing board, they all come over and stick their heads over the wall.
I love this. It's like people often move to the middle of nowhere and they worry about how they're going to integrate into community. And Sarah, of course, got to know the local farmers because it's a very agricultural, rural area. And now you've got a Durham hill farmer texting Sarah to let her know when the interesting bullocks are coming because he takes an interest in her art.
There was lots of that in the episode, but I really was interested in the relationship that you had with David, the builder, who at the start of the episode was quite sniffy about Hempcrete and said it would be the first and last building using Hempcrete. Do you think that you changed his mind at all? Do you think that you managed to get him along, your way of thinking a bit more?
Oh, I don't know that. You'd have to ask David that. But David was actually key for my carrying on with the Hempcrete because there was a very tricky week where I was receiving conflicting advice about which hemp and which binder to use. I actually had started to consider hemp block. And then David turned up, actually, and he said, "What, you're not doing the Hempcrete?" But I thought the whole thing was about Hempcrete. So, funnily enough, I think it was actually David who was responsible, or certainly was a nudge to kind of carry on.
I have one more thing, and we've had a lovely chat. I wanted just to check that if you had your time again with your grand design, would you get Kevin and the team involved again. Did you enjoy the process of your story being told on TV? Did you think that was a fun part of it?
I really did. And in fact, I think it was a crucial element because when I was thinking of applying, someone I knew said, for God's sake, don't do it. They said that the last thing you'll need when there's like they're putting up the timber frame comes on site is the stress of a TV crew. But actually having them around, they kind of like provided a support network. They were the only people, I would say, who were genuinely interested in the detail and the minutiae of, how to crop a stone. My mum always said to me at the end of the day, oh, how's it gone? And I'd start to talk and she'd, disappear.
That's lovely to hear.
It defeats me why people are prepared to let us into their lives, into one of the most stressful experiences you could ever inflict upon yourself, and then to add to it with the film crew. But I have to say, for us, it's a huge privilege. And we are always sensitive to that because we feel that it is only thanks to the grace of people like Sarah that we're asked to come along and enjoy the ride with them.
Sarah, thank you so much for being on episode 1. And I wish you many, many happy years in your house. And I hope they're warm years, and I hope loads of people enjoy it and make wonderful art in there as well.
Sarah, we'll come back again. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
And I'll try and persuade Greg up.
I'm there.
He's there.
Yeah.
See you then.
Thank you very much, guys. Bye-bye.
Kevin, we're almost out of time on this episode.
Can't believe it.
But I've been trawling the Grand Designs fan sites, and the joy of having a show that's been on for 25 years is there's so many questions, so many unanswered things. Okay. Claire from Chester says, have you ever come across someone whose unhinged idea actually turned out to be genius and worked far better than anyone could have imagined?
Oh, yeah, there are plenty of those. Thank you for that question, Claire. The whole point about all of the people we film, it's like they've joined a cult, their eyes glaze over, and it doesn't matter what I say or anybody says, they believe that this extraordinary idea is going to happen. And you might think that odd and a little bit unhinged, but actually nothing in the world would ever get built if people weren't like that. It's within all of us, that.
Let's have another one. How about this one from Eleanor in Hampshire? Kevin, do you always only wear blue/navy? Is blue your TV colour?
Of course I wear other colours. Just not today.
Well, we've got variations on navy.
Do you know what? I discovered a long time ago that if everything's the same colour, life's a little simpler.
But you do like a nice, colourful neckerchief.
Occasionally.
Yeah. Jazz it up.
Yeah, but it's school uniform. That's what it is for me.
And what about in real life? Do you wear your TV uniform in real life?
Greg, this is real life.
Wow.
This is what we do.
He's getting existential, guys. It's nearly time for a monologue. Thank you very much for listening and watching. And Kevin, it's been a joy. I can't wait for the rest of the series, and we'll be there tracking every single move of these amazing builds.
But I should add, as we are talking right now, we're still making the rest of the series.
Really?
Yeah, it's happening almost in real time.
You better get going then.
No, it doesn't stop.
Kevin, thank you. We'll see you for the next episode, and we hope to see you on the next one too. Please make sure you're subscribing to this wonderful podcast/vodcast, whatever you want to call it, and come back soon for more.
Can I just say, you can access the entire archive of Grand Designs, that's 26 years worth, on the Channel 4 website, and you can also access a selection of programmes on YouTube. Meanwhile, we look forward to seeing you next week. There's a new episode of Grand Designs, of course, 9 o'clock Wednesday night, followed by this. What's not to like?